and Genealogical Society, that's OGS. So the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society is here in Atlanta. We meet once a month, and we talk about DNA. We talk about how to use DNA to find your ancestors, how to connect. We also talk about some of the tools that we're going to talk about today. I see some of the faces were here from from the first session, but just to get so that I know the audience, how many people have taken a DNA test? Good, hands down. And for those people that have taken a DNA test, you have taken your DNA test and downloaded it from one site and uploaded it to another one. Okay, good. And for those people that didn't raise your hand, does that mean you have not taken DNA? You have not taken DNA test? All right, probably. Just so I know where we stand. So today we're going to talk about DNA research tools. And if you look at this picture, look at this. Those people that have been doing DNA for a little while, you can probably relate that at some point it really feels like you might be pulling teeth. So I thought that some dental tools might be a good picture here, but it's going to be painless, but they are necessary. Some of the tools you might already know, but you might think of some different ways of using them. I have a handout. The handout looks like this. It says DNA research tools. And on this handout, it'll list the tool, it lists what the use is, and it lists where to find it. This is not the only list. There could be many more places. There could be many more tools. But because we only have a short period of time, I'm going to walk through some of them, and we can talk about how to use the tools. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, some of the things we're going to talk about are not just for DNA. If you've done genealogy, just going through the census, going through the records and trying to form your family tree, some of these things you need to also do when you do your DNA test, because it'll be a lot easier for you if you have them. Now, I know in some cases, maybe if you are an adoptee, you might not have a family tree yet, for example, but you will be able to use some of the tools we're talking about to create them. So, of course, the first thing is, if I can get it to move, the family tree. So why would you need a family tree already if you're doing DNA to build out your family tree? Why would you need that? Not everybody does DNA testing. And also, once you took your DNA, what did it give you back? It gave you some results. And it gave you a long list of people that were supposedly related to you. So the DNA company, they give you their estimate of how those people are related to you. If you already have a family tree, you could look at those estimates, go to your family tree and see, oh, this says this is my second cousin. Let me go up and find all my second cousins and see see if this person is my second cousin. So if you already have a family tree, it is helpful, but we will talk about how to build a genetic family tree also. But I highly recommend having a family tree already. You all already have family trees? You already done it? Yep. So family trees, they don't have to always be online, but some of the companies are trying to help us. So here's an example. 23andMe, anybody taking 23andMe test? 23andMe has tried to help us. They tried to go out and look at all of our DNA matches and give an estimate of where those DNA matches might be related to us. So for example, this is the person that was tested, so that's my uncle, and it says that these people are on his father's side, these people are on his mother's. It didn't say mother, father, it just says that this is one parent, this is the other parent. And then it lists DNA matches down here. I know it's too small for you to read, but look how distant some of these relationships might be. Having this graphical look helps because I can take that DNA match and say, oh, I know it's on his mother's side at least. I know who these two people are. Now I can kind of estimate where that person falls in the family tree. So I thought that was very helpful from 23andMe because otherwise, again, all I've got is this long list of DNA matches. But they tried to help me. Now, when you go into 23andMe, you can actually click on these and you can edit it. So you can put in what you know or what you think you might know, and you can actually share it with your other DNA matches. So how might that help you? They might help you build this tree out a little more. And you might ask them to share their tree with you so you can see what their tree has and you can compare them and see if they match. So I really like that 23andMe is trying to help us. They had this information already. They try to help us because on 23andMe, you can't really, there's no other way for you to build a tree. So I really like that they tried to take my DNA matches, or in this case, my uncle's DNA matches, show me which side of the family, which parent, here's his parents, which side of the family some of these DNA matches were on. These are the names of the DNA matches. And I put in some of these other things. So I went in and edited, because I know I've done my family research on that side of the family. So I put in some of these names so that I could remind myself that, oh, here's this match. The other thing that I can do with this is if I see people that we share in common, so for this person, we share in common some of these other DNA matches. If I see a new DNA match come up and they're also on the same list, I can say, oh, I know what line of the family that other DNA match is because I already have somebody out here that we both match. Am I making sense? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so I really like that 23andMe is trying to help me. Not everybody does that. Yes, question. Okay, tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah, I just feel like that I haven't learned how to master that. Let me just put it that way.
Okay, okay.
Because it seems like no one's connected. I don't know how. I know the maternal and the maternal side.
You know these two people. These two people.
But
Yeah.
other than that, these other people are just floating everywhere.
That's what I felt. That's the way I
Okay.
felt. I'm right there with you.
Okay.
Until I started doing research outside of DNA to build that family tree, I could identify some of these other people.
Okay.
I know these people's names because I researched those people. These are not, this is too far back in time for me to have this person's DNA. He's long dead. So I know these people's name because I researched them outside of DNA and I looked at the family trees of some of my matches. That's how I got those names.
So you would suggest that we go in there and click on those little circles and fill in
Correct.
information, and maybe it'll start making sense.
That's how it worked out for me.
Okay.
Because again, I have no way of proving this until I do that other documentary research anyway.
Yeah, I've done a lot of the research.
So-
It's just that I didn't know what to make and what to do.
Here's what I would do if I were you. I would take the family tree that you have, wherever you have it. If you have it online on a different system, it doesn't matter. Wherever you have it, go to this person who you have the DNA for, put their parents in, and if you know some of their, if you know their grandparents, their great-grandparents, if you can estimate where some of these people fall, just an estimate, because it's changeable. It's not permanent. You get a guess and you say, I think this is from my third great-grandfather's descendant or whatever. Put your estimate in and then compare it to the other people's DNA and see if you can confirm it. But that's how I use it. Anybody else use this? Anybody else have suggestions for how you might use it?
I've got the 23andMe. My biggest. Am I supposed to be pushing a button?
No, is it?
Okay.
It should be on. Can you? Good. Yes.
So what I was doing is where I've put myself in, and then my parents, and I was okay with a couple of people that I knew was my mother's line and my father's line, but once I got into the grandparents and the third, I can go back, but I don't know who all these little people on the bottom. Do they go to my grandfather's side or my grandmother's side? That's where I get stuck on that. So I like what you're saying. Go in and grab some of these people that 23andMe is listed.
They did these for me. I did not do these down here at the bottom. These are DNA matches that 23andMe just picked some of them. I don't know how they picked, honestly. I guess I could contact them and ask them how they picked these matches. Out of all the matches that are listed. They just picked a few and put them on here.
Well, I did get lucky, and this might help other people. If you have family members like you've got half siblings, and then their DNA or their kids' DNA, that helped me eliminate who was my mother's side, because we had different, my sister and I had different fathers but the same mother. So when her girls did their DNA on this testing site, that told me immediately that all these people listed came off my mother's side because we had different fathers.
Excellent, excellent. So I would fill this in. You know that information. I would use that to fill some of these in. Just click on them, edit it. As you know more, click on it and change it. Anything else about that one? Here's another one. You guys have Ancestry? Do you use this through lines? I blocked out the names because I don't have permission to put those people's names up. But I put it up there because it lists fifth great grandparents up there. You see fifth great grandparents on somebody's tree. Some of my different DNA matches trees go back quite a ways. And I have to go in and basically review it to see if it's correct, right? But I'm just going to assume, I'll go back quite a few ways, and then I can use that information to do some research. How would I use this for DNA testing, for DNA research? How would I use through lines?
When you find the people who matches that you have growing up, I guess it compares to trees and dates and everything else. I found fifth grandparents as well.
That's exactly right. That's right. He said you use them. Yeah. You use them to go backwards in time. And your DNA matches that you were trying to find, was it easy? I mean, were you able to go back a long way?
So they found people at the bottom, and it goes all the way up, and they found multiple people. So it kind of almost verified that fifth grandparent.
You're verifying your DNA research. Through lines is just one way to do it. I listed those two, 23andMe and Ancestry, because most people test on those two sites, and I also listed them because they're the ones that they do it for you. They give you this. I don't know that Family Tree DNA gives you a tree. Anybody use Family Tree DNA? You have taken that test? Did they give you a tree, or did you have to upload it? They didn't give you a tree, right? So MyHeritage. Anybody use MyHeritage? Did they give you a tree? That's clustering, but it's not a tree, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Right.
Yeah. So you have to upload your own tree, but you can, or you can build it. So I just listed those two because they create a tree for you. They give you a little stepping stone. You kind of have to verify each one no matter what. So I'm trying to help those that maybe don't know anything about your heritage yet. These two sites try to help you by using the trees of other people who are your DNA matches. So they try to help you build a tree if you don't have one of your own. So if you don't know the line of the family that you're researching, these two sites try to help you because they create one based upon your DNA matches. They may or may not be right. You have to do the research right, but they try to help you. Otherwise, you have to create your trees on your own. You're looking quizzical. Got a question? Okay, talk to me. Talk to me.
Yeah, okay. I am on Ancestry, and I have built a tree,
Yes.
and I can go back a couple of generations, and I find that when we did the DNA testing, I've done it, most of the people, when you start talking about fifth great grandparents, they are deceased.
Yes.
And if it's not in the database, they can't populate it. I mean, they basically take what you have entered.
This is somebody else's family tree. These are DNA matches family tree compared to yours. That's what through lines is. It's the tree, not the DNA. All they're doing is starting with the DNA matches. So they start with the DNA matches, and for all those DNA matches who have a public tree, they use through lines to try to connect them. That's what they do.
Oh, okay, because then I guess I just haven't had any other.
You have to have a public tree.
I have a public tree?
And your DNA has to be attached to
The
it.
DNA is attached?
And you don't get through lines?
I get through lines, but not to anyone outside my tree.
Well, actually, I have my tree is private, and still picks it up. And it's verified because it's finding relatives that I know taking the test, and it's pulling them up, and it's going up.
Because you attach your DNA to your tree. You have to attach your DNA to the tree. Even though it's private, you have to attach it. If you have DNA that you have not attached to a tree, it will not do this for you.
But let me make sure I understand what you're saying. I have attached the DNA to the tree. The tree is public. And I have several family members. All of our DNA is attached to our tree. But in terms of through lines, it only goes to those ancestors that I know I entered. There's nothing, no new information has popped up.
The other people that are DNA matches to you, it doesn't pick up their trees. Is that what you're saying?
It picks up their trees, but I had already I had entered that.
Somebody else, your DNA matches took your DNA and took your tree and put it on their trees. I guess I'm trying to figure out is you're saying the only thing.
The information. I mean, I got
Maybe all the rest was not public, maybe a private tree.
But I'm getting actually people going way back in their Caucasian trees and everything.
yeah, see,
And
that's
they're not matches, but it's saying these are potential ancestors.
that's what
It's
I'm
getting everything, it's going back to England and all over.
no, I'm not getting anything beyond what I have entered.
Yeah.
You said the people that you have matches to don't have any other information in their tree,
They're not sharing it at least.
or it's private.
Yeah. Yes.
I found that if you research those, you can't just take those potentials. They don't work out.
I know.
You take those things and research them and see how they match and if they match. I have taken some of those and actually found information that I never knew.
But you had to do the research, right? You
Yeah.
had to do the research.
Right.
So all they're doing is giving you a starting point. Because before you would not have a starting point. So all I'm doing with Through Lines is saying, here's a way that Ancestry is trying to give you a starting point that you don't have to start from scratch. I'm not saying it's all correct. You still have to do the work, right? Right? We'll have to figure out why you might not be getting any more of it. But honestly, it's just a starting point. I'm just saying that it's helpful to have a tree. Here are the companies that are trying to help you start a tree without you doing some of the work. Did you have a question?
Yeah, for a long time, I was the only family tree. And so I wasn't getting any more information. Oh, for a long time, I was the only family tree
Yes.
in my line. I was the only person researching it for decades.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when I did the DNA thing, then all of a sudden, other people started getting trees from my tree, and they started adding stuff, and then that's when I started to get other things. So I don't know if that's your situation or not. I don't know if you like the family tree person for your line or not.
Like for example, one line of my family tree, hardly anybody seems to have taken a DNA test because it's just this one line, and I'm on all of the sites, and they just don't take it. I don't know. So I was that person too. Anybody, you are the person that does the research? Yep. So I was that person too when they started doing all the advertising on television, saying how wonderful it was to find your heritage. Then people started taking DNA tests, and all of a sudden people started showing up. And I would see some people that I know show up on my DNA match list, and I know I asked them to take a test years ago, and they didn't take it. But all of a sudden they see a commercial and they take a DNA test. I'm not mad at them. But at least they're doing it now.
You know, I found a lot of people we always call each other cousin and stuff like that. I wasn't really sure that they were how we were related. So they started popping up on Ancestry. That's what it said. I said, oh, then I could follow the line.
And weren't you happy that they did that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you gave them out at Christmas and they never took it.
I'm not giving out anymore.
Me either. I'm not giving them out anymore. So what have we talked about so far? We talked about having a family tree, why it's important. I gave you a couple of examples of organizations that try to help you start a tree if you don't know where to look. So if you're an adoptee or if you're looking at a family and you don't know nothing about them, these two will at least try to help you start. Otherwise, you have to build a tree. The other thing is this family group sheet. This was a part of your assignment when you signed up for this seminar. Did you all do the assignment? Y'all know what I'm talking about? When you signed up, when you went in to sign up for Discover Your Roots, it told you, hey, go out to Family Search and put your family tree in, and it said to fill out a family group sheet. And none of y'all did it, see? Okay, one person did it.
No, come on, y'all.
I, so why is so why do you think that why do you think we wanted you to fill out a family group sheet? Make the tree to confirm. Those are good. Anything else? Why would you fill out all this? Did y'all read it at least? Read the information? Up here it says. Okay, but you did this piece of paper. All right. All right. When you filled out this piece of paper, you documented what you already know. Why is that important? I have to have some starting point when I'm doing my DNA. I have to be able to look at the documented details of a family member because, again, when I'm looking at that long list of DNA matches that they give me, I have to have something to go on. I can't keep all this in my head. I document it because maybe y'all know it. Maybe y'all can keep track of it, but I need this. Because what's on here, it tells the age, the location, surnames. I can do one of these for all of my DNA matches. I can look at all the people that we have in common and try to do this. Because once I do this, every time I get a new match that pops up, I can see, oh, do they fit in with anything that I already know? It may or may not be on an online tree anywhere. I have documented it here. So that's why we wanted you to do it ahead of, that was y'all's homework. I know. Y'all trying to skip and do the easy way. I think that's a problem with DNA. People think that all they have to do is take the DNA test and it'll just be magic. But there's research and work that you have to do, just like you have to do research and work for regular genealogy research. It's not as easy as you think. They give you results of your DNA test, but you have to figure out how you're related to those people. You have to verify it. So having this already helps you do that. So I do this. After I do this, I go and say, did I learn anything else when I looked at this new match? So if they've got a different surname, just because you have parents that have certain names does not mean that they gave it to their children. You have to figure out, okay, there's a new surname. Let me write that down. So all this information I capture because I'm going to look at my next person that comes up to see if I can figure out how they fit into this line of the family. Yes?
I'll talk loud. I'll try. So
when you get your DNA match list from whatever site you've got it on, I have one that shows up that's like, you've got 1,500
Is that all?
matches. Well,
Mine
I'm
says
just
like
making it up.
15,000.
I have I come from a very small family, and almost nobody else has done DNA. My dad was an only child, you know what I mean? And it's
Yes.
like, and I was a caboose baby, which means my mother was 42. So like all my descendants are gone. I'm it.
Right.
So most of my cousins that are showing up are like 4th, 5th, 6th generation. So when you're saying you do all this with a family group sheet, how far down are you going to check all these other people? Because the further out you go, really the less DNA connection you have.
That is such a good question. You only know what you know. So I might not be able to go very far down. You only know what you know.
I mean, what do you
But-
consider the nuclear
and then-
family?
Yep, and you can do that for, if you have it, you can do that for multiple families, right? Multiple family lines. So you do a family DNA group sheet for multiple of your lines. So here's grandmother's line, and all of her sons and daughters get a separate sheet to mark their family. And if I know great grandmother, here's great grandmother's line and her siblings and their descendants, and each one of them gets their own family group sheet.
Okay.
I know it sounds like a lot of work, but I promise you, if I hadn't documented it, I have to go back and try to remember. Y'all have been, some of y'all have been doing research for a long time. Sometimes I forget and I go back and do it again when I've already done the research, and I'm mad because I already did it. So I'm just trying to say, at least write it down so you can flip through and say, okay, I already researched that part.
Okay. I started my family group sheet not because of DNA, just because of, just trying to build a family tree.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so are you suggesting that I go back and do this?
I'm saying that if you already have this information, when you look at a new DNA match, pull this up and say, okay, have I learned anything new? Did they put in a new city that they would move to? So now every time I look for another descendant, I can look at a different place. I'm just saying, fill out all the information, because sometimes you get those DNA lists and all it says is that it's from Pennsylvania. And you're like, well, I don't have any cousins in Pennsylvania. I'm skip over that one. But you might have somewhere documented that, oh, so and such's son moved to Pennsylvania. I just capture all the information I possibly can. Yeah, I
Most
know.
of my information is on Ancestry.
Fine. Use Ancestry.
I'm just trying to understand.
Fine.
I'm supposed to go back and do that from my Ancestry data?
I wouldn't. I would use Ancestry. Yeah, they do. But you don't have to. If you've already filled it out, when you pull up a person on Ancestry, it's this information anyway. It's this information anyway.
How far back are you going, though? I mean, if to the match, if I've got a sixth cousin shows up, do you bother with them at all?
It depends on your DNA question, right? It depends on what you're trying to find. If that's central to the question you are trying to find, then maybe that particular person might be important.
If it's in that line, okay.
Right, but if it's not in the question that you're trying to ask, and I didn't say this at the very beginning, but if all you do is take a test and try to figure it out, that's one thing. But if you have a question that you're trying to answer, it is so much easier. So my initial question when I started doing DNA is I want to see how far back I can possibly go. So for each grandparent, I said, okay, for this grandparent, I want to find their great-grandparent. I wanted to see how far back. So that was my goal. And as I started doing it a little bit more and more, I was starting to look at, okay, now I need this third great-grandmother because I don't know who her husband is. I don't know her. So I had a specific question I was trying to answer. But it is so much harder if all you do is take this DNA test and you're not trying to answer any question, because it's confusing. But if you have a specific question, you will know whether or not you need to dig deep into this one person. If they're not central to answering your question, don't waste your time.
So, I have 23% Sweden in me. So, that would be how I could apply that. If somebody pops up and they
And
got
it says that they're sweet.
stuff,
Yeah, you're like,
if I have a family group sheet, their family group, then I can maybe trace down to see how in the world.
if that's your DNA question, yes. If that's not your DNA question, you move on.
Move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so those first two were things that you would probably use in regular genealogy regardless. You'd use your family tree, you'd use a family group sheet. You would also use collaboration, because the reason you all are here today is that you need to get together and answer questions about your family. So these next two things are all about collaboration. And we just discussed how we used to be the only person that does DNA, that does family history research, and now a lot of people are doing it. So take advantage of that. When you see that long list of DNA matches, hopefully some of them will want to help and put together and figure out how you are related to each other. So these next two are ways to, they're just ways to collaborate. So coming to this event was one way to collaborate, right? Because what was the other assignment when you first signed up? What was the other assignment when you first signed up for this? Y'all failing my test. I should have given them a test.
We didn't register, so we
If you stay to lunch, you will see how that's important. So on Family Search, you can attach your family tree, and you can turn on to, it's basically a geolocator to see if there's anybody physically located around you who is somehow related to you. So we asked you to do that ahead of time, to set up the account, attach your tree, because at lunch we're going to say, okay, turn it on, pull up your phone, turn it on, And you're going to look around the room, you're going to go, oh, my third cousin is in this room. No, but seriously, okay. We have done it before. We're going to do it. I promise you, some of you will find some people here today who are related to you. Y'all don't believe me? Yes, question. It works. And so y'all better do that before lunch. So the whole point is that you find ways to collaborate. So here's one way to collaborate. I find this helpful. I find this helpful. What it says that a dedicated DNA research email address. Okay, so let me just tell y'all that when you take your DNA test, your DNA results go to this website, whichever site you took the test on, right? And the way that you communicate with the other people that are supposedly related to you is you send little messages back and forth on that site. And then the site, Ancestry or whatever, will send you an email saying, hey, you got a message from your fourth cousin Jim, right? It goes to your email account. So I have uploaded DNA to all the major sites. So I get all these messages on different sites. And I've been doing it for long enough that I get emails from people from a long time ago. So let me show you this one. So save over time. So I have emails from people from when I first did it. I think it was 2015 when I did one for the first time. So I have emails from 2015. Some of those people, some messages I sent out and people responded back to me. I never heard from them again. But 2 years later, somebody will show up. So I have one example of a young lady. She and I were DNA matches on Ancestry. I sent her a message. I said, hey, are you so and such's granddaughter? Here's what I know about the family tree. She never responded. 2 years later, she sent me a message. She said, oh, yeah, I'm so and such's granddaughter. Let's connect. And she sent me her email address. So I have that saved because otherwise she has never communicated with me. I wrote her off thinking she's never going to talk to me again. So I saved it all in one place. And now all of the messages that I get for any of those DNA sites go to one place. I can keep them forever in one place. That's one reason. Another reason is kind of security and privacy. So we use email for everything, don't we? Use email for everything. So identity theft is prevalent. And there might be some other reasons why you want to keep it separate. But to keep it separate from all the other personal things that you do, everything that you get would be related to DNA would go to one email address. Also to manage just volume. So I don't know about you, but I just get too much email. It might get lost if I get a message from someone if it's not to a dedicated email address. So I try to use the same. And I can tell y'all, I have some old email addresses. So let me ask this question. I have a couple of Hotmail email addresses. Anybody have Yahoo? You have Yahoo? AOL? Anybody got AOL? Right. Okay. So that says, y'all just tell your age. But what I will tell you is that as long as that email continues to work, great. But you can also create aliases for that email. You can keep the email, but create an alias for it. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But what that does is it still keeps it separated from other things. You can still keep your AOL email address. You just got to create an alias, and it's just another email that you use just for DNA. And then consolidate communication. So I just told you that I use all the different sites. So if I use the same email address for all the different sites, it comes to one place. So I use it to consolidate. So here's what I was talking about when I was talking about. Well, first of all, emails, they're free. Email addresses are free. You can create as many as you want, right? And you can get them from wherever. So AOL, does that exist anymore? The email, you still pay?
I'm the only one that's still paying.
I am not even going to comment. I'm not. But If you don't care, I don't care. But I will tell you that you can get free email addresses from anywhere. So, so that's what I'm saying. You have 15. I have about 10 email addresses for all different purposes, for work, for all. I have about 10. And you ask me how do I keep track? Well, they're all here on the phone. You don't have you can have more than one email address go to the phone. You can have more than one email address that you look up on your laptop. It doesn't it is not you are not required to create to just have one email address. I have all of them on here. So here's what you do. You create this it's just an alias. It is your regular DNA. This is not real. I made this up. So if this is somebody's email address, I'm sorry. But you can have a regular email address, and then you can create an alias email address. It's just a second email address that's whatever you're researching. So, for example, if one of my projects is to do Caribbean research, I've got my email address plus Caribbean, and everything related to Caribbean Caribbean DNA research goes to that email address. Yes. So when you sign up, you use that email address. You use that email address. And also, you can change it at any time. Just because when you signed up, you use a different one, they let you change it. You can go in and change your email address. Also, your email address service, whatever service you use, iCloud or Yahoo or what's some other ones, Gmail or what they let you look at other email addresses from your current email address. So I can go to DNA Diva and I can set it up so that I can look at these other email addresses on DNA Diva. They're all different, so the reason I'm not showing you exactly how to do it, go to that site and put in help because they're all different on how to do it. But you can do this. For those of you who are doing research for other people, your email address plus that other person and use that. And you can there's no limit to the number that you can have. You can have as many of these as you want. So how does that help with collaboration? Well, it helps with collaboration because you are able to send communications back and forth to these other people that you are trying to work with to help figure out whatever DNA question you have. So this is not on any DNA site. This is just your email. I'm just saying that having a dedicated DNA research email address helps me. Okay, next, social media. Anybody use social media? I got one hand. Two. I just asked one. I just said, did anybody use social media? Any of the social media sites? I don't care one of them, whichever one of them. All right, so y'all. So if somebody were to approach you on any of those sites about your DNA research, let's say it's some DNA match and they're just approaching you on any of those social media, would you communicate with them? I mean, I'm with you. I might. It depends. If they know that, if I know that my DNA match, or if I see that it came from one of the DNA sites or something like that, I might. So I spend very little time on social media, but I know I should spend more. So I'm talking about what you should. I'm talking about what you should do. And the reason I say that is because if you go out to like a Facebook, there are tons of Facebook groups that are genealogy and DNA related. Tons of them. There are things that help you with all the different tools. There are things that help you with the different sites, how to maneuver. Surnames, I have a couple of surname groups out there. These are other people who are also doing the same thing that you're doing. So if you go out, there's all kind of Twitter groups out there. There was a Twitter space. Y'all know what Twitter space is? It's you go out to Twitter. Y'all know what Twitter is? All right, you go out to Twitter and you can set up a time when you can have a audio conversation with other people through Twitter. So I'm just telling you that there are DNA groups, DNA people who might be able to help you with your research who are using these tools. If you ignore them, you are missing. I'm missing out on some of them. I miss out because I have a full-time job. but I can tell you that there's a lot out there. And when I try to express that You know, I'm a little skeptical if I don't know, but if I'm the one who set up the group, I can invite whoever I want. So you can set up a DNA group with your different little matches so you guys can communicate with each other. Use Twitter Space if you want. I'm just suggesting that there are multiple ways to collaborate. Um, yes.
So what I do in Facebook, I search my mother's name is not very common. It's in one little area in North Carolina. And I search and I find probably like 95% of the time,
So you search Facebook?
95% of the time, if I search for Hoffler, Hoffler,
Yeah.
they're from one little county in North Carolina. And
Yeah.
usually they are related, or no matter which race they are, they're from that same area.
You know that those
So I
people
know
are probably
that-
your family.
And I search and I usually find that they are. The other thing that I do, I have family and friends. If I see some of the name Hoffler or Easton or different names, I contact those people because they're usually related. I have cousins that know that I do this, and they won't tell me about certain people, and I find them.
They won't tell you. Why won't they tell
I look
you?
at their friends or their people that they have.
Let's talk about that because this first thing is kind of being a stealth. Yeah, I don't like to use. I'm trying not to use that word. This is my gentle way of saying that. It's just you're just an innocent voyeur. You go and you look at all their different postings and see if you can identify. Oh, he referred to so and such as grandma. That's his grandma, and here's a picture of her. Because you can actually find out quite a bit just by doing a quick search, right? You don't even have to be connected to that person. You can find out quite a bit. Why is this important? Because I don't know about you all, but some of my DNA matches, they don't put anything. Because their reason for taking a DNA test might be different than mine. They may have taken a DNA test because somebody gave it to them for Christmas. They may have taken a DNA test because they want to find out which place in the world they were from, and that was 2 years ago, and they've never looked at it since. So they might not be interested in trying to figure it out, but I can use these tools. I can search Facebook, and I might be able to see, okay, this person has this name. I'm going to search the location they put in. I might be able to find a last name in a geographic area, just innocently searching social media, and use all of the different sites. I mean, I know that social media is prevalent or whatever. Just be careful when you approach people. Just like that question I asked a minute ago about whether or not you would respond. Sometimes, it's a bunch of stuff out there. So I just say be careful. Be careful. And be careful how you approach and talk to people. Like when you were approaching those cousins, how did you talk to them the very first time? How did you approach them? What did you say?
Well, basically what I would say is that I see you're friends with this particular person on Facebook, and they're my cousin, and you have the same last name. You kind of just send an instant message to them.
Yep, you share something that you already know to say that, hey, I know that we're that's my cousin, or I guess we're cousins too. Something. Oh, hey, I see that yes.
I'm confused. Are you talking about Facebook?
I'm talking about whatever social media thing you want to search. So we're talking about Facebook because he brought up Facebook. But are you thinking that there's other places besides Facebook you'd like to search?
Well, I think it's for the social media. I'm not sure what else, but if you go on Facebook, you don't have to be so apprehensive because if you find a group, and you said in North Carolina your family was there, there's more than likely a Facebook genealogy research or even a history.
Yup.
And when you go to those sites, they have an administrator that looks at that site and monitors it, so there can't be somebody that you're uncomfortable with or going off on a tangent on something that's not applicable to that. But people even download their GED matches to those small sites, and when you do that, that's all your DNA. You were talking about the DNA. You say you don't want to do it, but if you do it, you'll have so many more results. And this is a controlled group. It's not the World Wide Web. It is a controlled.
I think that some of them are controlled.
That's what I'm saying. When you
So-
join the sites,
right,
there's an
some of them.
administrator, a lot of them, not some, a lot.
We're just saying that if you have a DNA match, and it's just a DNA match, and you're trying to figure out who that person is, it might not be, they might not be associated with anything like this. It might just be a person. So there's two different things. So there are sites that are administered, and then you're just trying to find out who this one match is. All you do, it's a person. You're trying to find out who this one DNA match is. Maybe it's somebody that's related to you in a way that would help you with your question. So it's two different things. Yes, you're talking about this, like something like this, where it's a group that's established, that somebody's monitoring, somebody's administering. And yes, I'm highly suggesting that you join these and participate in these, and it is a safer way. But then it's just, if you have just people that post to your Facebook and send you a message and you have no idea who they are. It's two different things. I'm talking about two different things. This is established group on Facebook, but Facebook also is individuals. It's just people, individuals. You've never used it like that?
Well, no, I think that, you know, when you spread out that far, like you said, you don't know, but if you want to start out, go to, you don't have to, like that says the Webster family. A lot of people in here don't even know what family they belong to.
I agree.
They're going on a different line. What I'm saying is, find the location, like if it's, Southeast Chicago. There's so many sites that honest, good people.
I agree.
Go local, go for geographically, if you don't know the name.
Yep.
Or if, there's just a lot, you just need to take your time to go through it, because that's gonna be a tremendous resource.
So if you're not using it, you need to use it, is what you're saying.
Well, I think there's a whole lot more before you get to that point, but, yeah, that's a really nice, don't be afraid of it.
I wholeheartedly agree. Use whatever resources might be available to you. And this is just one of them. This is just, anybody, yes.
Those not aware of it, family search communities, both researching surnames as well as specific locations.
Other people you can collaborate with who are researching the same thing that you're researching.
Just click the little question mark help thing in the upper right-hand corner, family search, and down at the bottom it says communities, research that. There's tons of resources.
Yep. Yep. The last session in here, we talked about a DNA relationship chart, but I see a lot of new faces. But you guys know what I'm talking about, this DNA relationship chart? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, so here's an example. So here's a DNA match from MyHeritage. I blocked out the name. But this person, I don't know. I don't know this person, but I know that they share 91.6 centimorgans, so they share DNA with me of that amount. And then this is what the estimate is for MyHeritage, that there are my first cousin twice removed to fourth cousin. So that's a big old wide range. So I would use a relationship chart to try to figure out, okay, what could that mean? So just like in the class before, if you click on this little question mark right here, it gives you this. And you guys have probably seen this before, right? You guys have seen this before? What is it saying? It's saying that the DNA test takers right here, their match could be a first cousin twice removed, which means the grandparent go over to an aunt and uncle and go down 3 generations. It could be this, or I could take myself, go up to the great-grandparent, go down 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 generations, and it could be that. Or I could take myself, go up to the next, you see where I'm going here? So how would I use that information? I would take that tree that we talked about creating, remember the family tree? And I would take that DNA person and say, okay, if this person is my first cousin twice removed, where are all the situations on my family tree where that person could be here? So my family tree, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at all my aunts and uncles that I know about. And I'm going to look to see, okay, I'm going to go down. If you're like me, when I first started doing research, I built a tree. But so many kids have been born since then. And now they're grown and they're taking DNA tests. So they are all down here. So I have to go in and see, okay, aunt, uncle, I have to make sure I know who all their descendants are. I have to go to my great-grandparents, my great-aunt and uncle, their descendants on my tree. I'm looking for this DNA match that I don't know. I don't know this DNA match, but I'm going to go to my tree, go up to my great-grandparent, go down to all of my aunts and uncles, the great-aunts and uncles, go down to the descendants to see if I can locate this person. Do y'all do this?
I'm just learning about it right this minute.
You do this?
And what
I clicked
what
on
site is
this is my heritage, but all of them give you something similar. They give you something similar. They all give you some way of saying what does first to third cousin mean. And they all list different ways a person might be related to you. Yes.
Now, would you actually go, like, for example, if you're a through line on, thank you, scared me. So if you go in, for example, on your DNA with the through lines on Ancestry, and they give you that DNA match, will you actually, when you go back into your tree, will you actually do all the research? Because a lot of them will have little dotted lines like, this is who we think is your relation, you know, how you're related, but it's not in your tree yet. So will you actually go in and do that research to add them to your tree so that that DNA match will now connect?
Yes. Do I do it on everyone? Remember, I'm trying to answer my DNA question. So for some of them, if it's related to my DNA question, I do the work. But if I don't think they're related to my DNA question, I have thousands of matches. I don't do it for all of them. I'm doing the ones that are related to my DNA question. I might have multiple questions. But you get what I'm saying? It's a lot of work if you do all that. So I'm going to stick to my DNA research question, and if it's related to that, then I do the work. Yes.
Is it easy to upload your DNA to the other site?
Yes, it is easy. Each one has its own way of doing it. Go to the help. Well, let me back up. Ancestry and 23andMe do not allow you to upload from other places. Ancestry and 23andMe do not allow you to upload from other places. From other places. You have to take a test on their site. They will not take DNA, Ancestry and 23andMe. But if you've taken a test there, you can download from their site and upload it to Family Tree DNA, MyHeritage, GEDmatch. And that's what I have done. I highly suggest that you do it because it puts your DNA in multiple databases. You're more likely to find more matches. So I would, see if that is helping your DNA search question. And if it's easy, yes, you download and then upload. Okay, it's free to upload, but one of the reasons you upload there is to use all these terrific tools that they have. So they might let you upload for free and you can see all the matches, but to use some of these tools, they might charge you, it's like a $29 one-time fee, whatever, but it's a one-time fee. But it allows you to do some more advanced, use some of their more advanced tools. So upload for free, look at all the matches for free, but to use some of the more advanced tools, you have to pay a one-time fee. Let me move faster. Okay, here's another way of doing it. If you guys have gone out to DNA Painter, you can put in whatever the centum organs is you share with the DNA match. It is the same thing we were just talking about. This is you, and these are all the possible relationships that DNA match might have. So it's the exact same thing. It's interactive. You just put in the amount of DNA you share, and it estimates how that person might be related to you. So it's DNApainter.com down here. This part of it is free, so you can do this for free. Go to DNApainter.com. There are a bunch of tools on there. I highly suggest them. Some of them take more work than others. I'm going to move a little faster. Here's something that helps me. Remember how I told you guys that I'm researching on a bunch of sites. I have a bunch of research questions. I work full time. This is not the only thing I do. I don't do this for a living. So I have to have a log. And it tells me where I left off. It tells me how much progress I've made. It helps me document what I've done. Here's an example. So this is just an Excel spreadsheet. You can do your log whichever way you want. But I suggest creating a log because if you come in there one time, you forget where you left off, I have just a log. It tells the action that I took, it tells the results, it gives some comments. I have created separate pages for each one. So this is one DNA research question I am trying to answer. I keep a log. Anybody else keep a log? Yep. Yep, because I can't keep it all in my head. Maybe you guys can keep it all. Maybe y'all, I need to learn what y'all are doing to keep stuff in your head. Okay, here's the other thing. How many have had a computer crash before? All right, so I have, but I always back up because I learned my lesson. Okay, so why do you need a DNA storage? Because DNA data, it starts online. You get your results online. That's where you get it. And it's large files normally. And when you start looking at some of that information, like your DNA match list, some people close their accounts, some people go away. Download the matches that you get from your DNA match list. When you start using some of the tools that we were just talking about, save those tools because data changes all the time. The DNA sites change. Computers crash, disasters happen. Always have a place to store. What are y'all using to store for storage? Yes?
I use Family Tree Maker. It kind of coordinates with Ancestry, so you can download and upload both ways.
Yeah.
And that's FamilyTreeMaker.
It's a piece of software that runs on your computer, Family Tree Maker.
You can actually update on Ancestry, your tree, or on either one. And what it does when you sync it, it shifts information back and forth.
And you're backing up your computer
Back up the
too.
computer.
Right. So there's lots of places that you can back up to. These are just some examples. So you can do it online via the cloud, right? So these are the cloud kind of things. iCloud, Dropbox. Do y'all know what I'm talking about with these? Yes. There are places that are online that you can upload data to. You can share with other people from some of these places. That's one reason. But, cell phone providers, internet providers provide you storage that you can upload to. So online or external, but please save your data. Just use all your tools. I'm at the end. Are there questions?
Just a comment, when you start, if you have your own research log, be sure you put your sources so that you can always go back and find out where you found the information, because if you don't, you'll waste all. When you're doing your research logs, make sure you put a column in there for sources so you can find that information again, because you don't want to waste all that time looking for something that you've already found once, and then it's like, wait a minute, where did I find that?
Because I've done that before.
Oh, we've all done it. It's
know.
called go down the rabbit hole over and over again.
All right. So that's all that I have. If any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you. Thank you.